Both of my great-grandfathers have been a part of that study. My roots in environmental health come from my great-grandfathers. They were sharecroppers, and then later they were able to own land for their family for generations to come. My ancestors' connection to the land has given me a strong care for our environment and how that environment influences human health. I am a fierce advocate for equitable treatment for all. The ways in which COVID-19 ravaged Black communities showed that we have underlying vulnerabilities when something like a pandemic hits. The path from tragedy to triumph travels along the path of learning.
Industry was hurting, but I didn't bandage the rope. Now I got too sick with it. Now we done found us.
You know, I mean, here comes Monmouth, the defending champs. Now they come in at North Carolina A&T for homecoming.
Advice to Monmouth for homecoming at A&T.
You're giving advice to Monmouth?
Yes. Very much needed advice for Monmouth for homecoming at A&T. Leave the band at home. But at homecoming, you can just get the whole 20 minutes to A&T.
Hey, don't sleep. Monmouth has been practicing neck all summer.
When we see Dr. Lee get out there on the field, we know something.
You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Rap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
The inaugural Boeing Red Tails Classic is personal to me. It's more than a matchup between Tuskegee University and Fort Valley State University. My beloved father, Colonel Lawrence E. Roberts, was a proud member of the Tuskegee Airmen. 922 brave pilots, also known as the Red Tails, fought in World War II. The Boeing Red Tails Classic is more than a celebration of HBCUs. It's a reminder of the Tuskegee Airmen's valor and sacrifice, the first class of Black fighter pilots who trained at Tuskegee Institute in Alabama during the height of Jim Crow, fighting for America, while in many ways America fought right back against them. This inaugural Boeing Red Tails Classic, this football game, is for them. And it's quite special that this game, which will be played at the Crampton Bowl in Montgomery, Alabama, opens the 2021 college football season on Sunday, September 5th at 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPNU. When you watch this game, please remember its larger meaning, that it's for a group who advocated for themselves while still facing prejudice and discrimination in the segregated army.
Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won. Yeah. I hope my team they won. Yeah. Man, I hope my team they won. I hope my team they won. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna law, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Bill with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Bringing it to you hot and heavy after week one. It's in the books. Welcome to episode 176 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast. The show that's covering the sporting HBCU diaspora. All things HBCU sports institutions, large and small, from NAIA to the NCAA. We share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics, a lot of that going on this week to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs and the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, along with my co-host, Mike Washington, with a big old smile, and Charles Bishop with a bigger smile. We are filming from our home studios and sending a signal live to KCOH 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer, Ralph Cooper, always has a big smile. In the beautiful home of Texas Southern University, not a lot of alumni having a big smile on that face, but we're still here in Houston, Texas. Without further ado, let me say, Mike Washington, how you doing?
Oh man, couldn't be any better, man. Terrific week one. We got a bunch of what I call Mike Washington data points.
Whoa.
Yes, we do, and we'll get into those data points. With that, Charles Bishop, how you doing? Man, you look a little darker. Look like you got a suntan.
Yeah, I did, Dr.
With?
I'm working with a little suntan, a little Miami suntan, but yeah, I'm doing well. I'm a little fatigued. It was a pretty busy weekend, but all in all, I'll take it. We back to week one HBCU football. What could be better?
No doubt, no doubt. Today's episode of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab is sponsored by THG Agency LLC. Keeping us really hot and heavy. I know they got a lot going on in their minds after week one when just about all the teams played. So we saw either what we wanted to see or certainly saw things that will make some of us a little nervous. George Suggs in the house, Ricky Burton, Michael Ford, brain is hurting. Too many lectures over the last week. Keep up the good work. Hashtag AMU winning. Yes, AMU winning. Hashtag they did. Chuck Hunt, K. Johnson. Good evening, Lab Fanatics. Shouting out all those in the lab. Appreciate you, K. K says, Jerome G. Sutton, I was looking for you. I caught up with Chuck Hunt. Oh, wow. Not the looking for you. Lonnie Shaw, K. Johnson gave a nice little wave back. Ricky Burton, we in the lab, baby. I see the G-Men back on the winning side of things. So I know he's feeling good. Harvey Parker, time for the lecture. Let's go. Who else we got in here? William E. Davis, strike again. I like that. Now, that's what you do. When it doesn't go your way, you still show up and show out. Nothing wrong with that, William. I see you. Jerome Chief Sutton's in here. I was there. Karen Griffin say, hey, everyone. So Jerome say he saw everything. He also sent me something about the Battle of the Bands. Wait till Thursday. We have a poll ranking. And like I said, the difference between my poll ranking, it's not just about how many fans you can get out there to push the button and say, like. We have wins and losses, just like you do on the sporting side, because we call this the HBCU marching sport. So you know, wins and losses. So we're going to see who's ranked in the band marching sport. But you'll have a teaser on that. That won't come till Thursday. Kevin Crawford says, good evening, brothers. Yes, big A5. You see, I got the black and old gold on tie on for y'all out. So, just make sure y'all understand. Troy Lamont, he's in the house. I like that. Didn't go well, but he's in the house. He's going to represent the Aggies in the house, expected to get 4 starting defensive linemen back. That was the problem. That's a major problem. You lose 4 starters. Y'all need to make sure they either stay healthy or get the compliance folks to work, because I heard a couple other folks had to deal with some issues like that. Compliance, pulling people off the field week one, that's not a good thing. Trudy Jackson, good afternoon. I'm not saying that for the Aggies. I know that for a couple of other ones, but we'll see. Lonnie Shaw, JSU, number 1. Alabama A&M, number 2. How can that be? Well, you haven't heard Cavil's ranking. That may not be. That's somebody else that just wants your attention. You know, count on us. And then let the brothers here tell you what they think about my poll ranking in the system. Debut it today. It's coming. It's coming. Kevin Crawford, fam, to the day I died. No doubt about it. Ari Parker, I will be worked out until October 9th. I really like this about the MEAC. Poll in terms of the SWAC Football Weekly Honors. What's on your mind?
Yeah, let's start off with the SWAC. As a SWAC named Alabama A&M's Aquil Glass, Jackson State's Aubrey Miller, Grambling State's Garrett Urban, and Prairie View A&M's Juwan Paz as the SWAC Football Players of the Week. Let's take a look at what these guys did. Offense, Aquil Glass, he goes 28 of 49 for 426 yards and 4 touchdowns through the air against South Carolina State.
No interceptions.
No interceptions. 42-41 victory over South Carolina State. Take a look at Jackson State, Aubrey Miller. He had a game-high 9 tackles and 1 sack as Jackson State's defense held Florida A&M out of the end zone and limited Florida A&M to only 234 yards of total offense. Specialist was Garrett Urban, punted the ball 6 times, 41 yards per as far as the punting average. Also had a long of 51 yards. And the newcomer is Juwan Paz, Prairie View's quarterback, the Louisville transfer. He racked up.
Who you with?
486 yards of total offense on 75 plays. He completed 25 of 37 for 354 yards passing with 3 touchdowns against the Texas Southern Tigers in Prairie View's 40-17 Labor Day Classic win.
Charles, did you say something about a newcomer?
Newcomer is Juwan Paz, man.
Yeah.
Shout out to the
congratulations on Miller getting it done, man. That game between Jackson State and FAMU, I know we talked about it Sunday, we want to get into it, but in terms of sometimes you get into a defensive matchup and you're like, that's frustrating. But they were flying around and really making it exciting to watch a defensive matchup. Let me go to you, Mike. Football Weekly Honors. What do you have for us?
Well, guess what? It was a Delaware State sweep. MEAC announced their weekly honor, Delaware State running back Savion Wilkerson, or in James Bond style, Wilkerson. Savion Wilkerson was named the MEAC Football Offensive Player, presented by Coca-Cola. The conference named this today. Now, here it is. Hornets defensive back Esaias Guthrie was selected as a defensive of the week. Picking up specialist of the week honors was Delaware State's Kevin DeShields. Wilkerson, 5'9", 205 pounds from the shot, rushed for a game-high 92 yards in the Hornets' season-opening win over Bowie State on Saturday, finding the end zone 3 times on 26 carries, including an 11-yard score with 5:38 in the game that put Delaware State up 2 possessions. Guthrie had 2 of the Hornets' 4 interceptions, had 2 of the Hornets, not 1, not 2, but 3, but 4 interceptions on Saturday against Bowie State, racking up a total of 93 yards. This included his 87-yard pick with 47 seconds remaining in the first half, which I think he did this last year as well. And then, of course, DeShields blocked a pair of extra point attempts in the Hornets season opening victory against Bowie State. So it was a Delaware State sweep in the MEAC weekly honors. Congratulations. Hats off to Delaware State.
Yes, when you look at it, hats off to Delaware State. They got the victory. A lot of folks were looking in on that game and going the other direction with Bowie State. So credit to them, get it done. But 4 interceptions, and the Bulldogs still found a way to keep it close. That's fascinating to me when you think about all the things. And ultimately, that interception before the half was a difference in the total score So big play by DeShields, helping his team get it done, fascinating in so many different ways. Shout out to Fred with it. He says, Winston-Salem State HBCU Heritage Center, BCSE, HBCU football history. Congrats to Winston-Salem State South / Alabama A&M. I like that.
Wow.
Talking about some coaches there, maybe. LaShawn Harris says, Shiloh Sanders, a beast. I think you have a lot of folks that agree with that. He was, for some people said, and I think Charles said this earlier, he might not make it to too many games if he's not careful because he's ahead of them. They don't quite let you play like that these days. Dwight Moore says, good evening to the dean and the professors. No doubt about it. Ronnie Shaw says, congrats to Mac McCain signing with the Eagles. Great point you got there, Lonnie Shaw. Good one, good one. Appreciate you putting that in. Let's get ready as we take this break. I'll set it up and tease it as we come back. We will have Dr. Cavill's Inside HBCU Huddle Report. We'll get into some matchups in the second half of the show, but the first half of the show in the second quarter, we're going to go into the mid-major and major division ranking. And Mike, how can you laugh before you even see the poll rankings? That's not right. That's not right.
The way you teed that up, I got my darts ready. I'm just waiting.
You and these data points and darts. We call you D&D with that. This is Dr. Bill inside HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. You see the guys are having fun. Something must have went right this weekend. And with that being said, stick with us. We'll be right back after this break.
Let's get back to strolling instead of scrolling. Before we can safely come together, we need the facts on COVID-19 vaccines. Visit getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision for yourself and for your family.
At Hampton Law, our primary goal is to provide non-traditional yet effective solutions and redefine the approach to client legal concerns. As your trusted legal advisor, we believe in sophisticated, personalized services that eliminate the confusion and complexity sometimes associated with legal matters. Our high standard for client care and concern, coupled with our extensive legal knowledge and skills, make Hampton Law a resource focused on the protection of the client's interest and overall goals. We value our clients and truly enjoy working with them. Visit thamptonlaw.com to conveniently schedule an appointment online. Tamika Hampton Esquire, 1631 Rock Springs Road, Suite 336, Apopka, Florida, 407-494-1471. thamptonlaw.com.
It's the show where we take you inside the game before the game begins. It's the pregame. With your host, Charles Bishop and Neely. So get ready because we pregame harder than the other show's party. It's the pregame.
Support the Black College Sports Network so we can continue to provide you coverage. Go to myjbn.com/support and be a part of the Black College Sports Network.
They can follow their dreams.
This is Dr. Bill inside HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Let's get into it, fellas. Let's see what you think. Dr. Cavill's mid-major top 10 poll ranking. We do have a new number one this week. Wins and losses matters in the poll ranking. Doesn't mean that you can't come back, but you just can't rack up losses or a loss and think that you will stay in the top 10 poll rankings, certainly in the top 5. That's not going to happen. In terms of the top 6, you can go to thgagency.com as well as BCSN Network will get the poll ranking up there for you, and you can look at the entire top 10. I will say there's 2 teams jumping into the top 10. I'll give you that information just so you know, but we won't go through the entire top 10. We'll have it flash up there. You can see it. Teams dropping out of the top 10 that allow these teams to get in are Virginia State Trojans. They drop out. And Savannah State falls all the way out of the top 10 with the significant loss they had. I look for them to find a way to get back in the poll rankings, but they're in there. I think we got the major division, so we're going to hold off on that. Let's check out the mid-major division a little bit as we do that. Jumping into the top 10, the mid-major is Clark Atlanta Panthers. Big win they had over Livingstone. I'm not sure if they'll stay in the top 10 very long, but credit to them. They got it done. They have a chance with Lane next weekend. Can they keep moving and keep that winning streak and say, hey, we're going to jump more than the top 10? Also, Fort Valley State with the shutout victory over Tuskegee on the national TV. They find a way to get in the top 10 all the way at number 8. We'll focus on the top 5, though, and this is where the rubber will meet the road. We'll see what the professors say about the top 5 teams in my top 10 poll ranking. At number 1, at number 5, Miles falls 2 spots. With their tough loss, overtime loss to Alabama State, they still have one first place vote, 67 points, but they fall 2 spots. But they stay in the top 5. At number 4, Bowie State Bulldogs, they fall from number 1. They fall 4 spots, 1 first place vote still, 73 points. Number 3, Fayetteville State Broncos, 1-0, including a conference win, 2 first place votes. They jump up 4 spots, 77 points, as they continue to get it done and make a statement as they're saying that we are ready to make a run for the CIAA. We'll see what that looks like in a couple of weeks. And number 2, Albany State Golden Rams, 1-0, big win. They have 2 first place votes, 81 points. They move up 4 spots. Albany, as you say in those parts, Mike would tell us. Number 1, Langston Lions get a big win. 4 first place was conference win. They move up 3 spots to number 1. Let me go to you first, Charles. What are your thoughts in the top 5 teams in the poll rankings? Get that frown off your face and go ahead and tell the people what you like.
You know, I really take a look at it and I'm like, that's a tough fall for Miles, because that was about yay from an upset, but I will take them at 5. But you know what? I like the poll starting out. Albany State, big win against Mississippi College, shutout. So kudos to Albany State with that. Fayetteville, a great showing. Bowie State, got to watch the turnover bug versus Delaware State. They anytime you make the entire team conference players of the week, that's not a good game for you. So, but those Miles Golden Bears, very impressive, 14-13. It's a loss, but you know what? You know who got on notice because of that loss? You know, Miles, they take a trip to Southern Baton Rouge this weekend. So
yes, indeed.
That's gonna be a good one. That's gonna be a good one. We might well build that one up now because Reggie Ruffin brings a ball club, and I tell you what, that middle linebacker that he has, man, that kid was flying around all over the place. And the Latavius Smiley, I tell you what, that's a tough ball player. So you know,
some of the Southern folks get talking about. They already chopping.
Mitchell Smiley and Natavius Floyd, both of those guys, they fly around for miles. So defensively, that could be a pretty fun one. But you know, I still like Southern, deep, experienced roster, senior laden team. They got the offensive line to really beat you up, but be careful.
Oh, I like what you said. You came in there and you got a lot of breakdowns. Boy, you getting those Southern folks all lathered up already. Miles coming down there. We'll see what that means. You tease a little bit, but Thursday we get to make some picks. We'll see how far over the ledge you want to send these folks. But nice tease. With that, let me shift to you, Mike. But before I do that, let me give a shout out to Karen Griffin. She says Langston University representing the West. One of the farthest HBCUs out west. They found a way to be number 1 in week number 1. Can they keep it? They got to grind. They play Texas College, so they have HBCU matchup. I don't see much there. We'll see how impressive maybe they can get it done. Obviously, Texas College will say not so fast. Troy says, let me pump up my other HBCU. Clark Atlanta, NBA in the house. I like that, Troy. That's right. Show some love for the Clark Atlanta Panthers. They got it done. With that, somebody's FCS program should hire Langston's head coach. Another good statement. That's by Jimmy Wilson. We've said that over the years. He's back at it again. If some teams are not careful, there'll be some spots available, but we'll see that. We got a long season. Let these coaches get it lathered up before we start shipping them out. With that, Mike, what are your thoughts in terms of my top 5? Thank you, Charles. I just had to say it.
Man,
Mike, what do you think about my top 5?
I'm about to blow this top 5 up. Somebody really likes Langston. They played Oklahoma Panhandle State. Yes, they went 6-2, but the last 3 or 4 years before that, they have been 2-6, 3-5. It's one data point.
Langston has won the last couple of years. What are you talking about?
Come on, somebody really likes Langston. I'm sorry. I said it a couple of weeks ago.
The poll is a representative poll at a period of time. You have to win. But let me finish.
Let me finish. In my opinion, to be in the top 5, you should have a winning record. You know, if you're Bowie State, I'm sorry, you should have dropped out of the top 5. And Fort Valley should have made the top 5 as they looked.
I do like that point, Mike. Every once in a while, you drop a great nugget with that data points. And I like the fact you justify who got to go, but you said who comes in. If you don't like Langston Lions at number 1, I do want to ask that question. Who would you put at number 1? And I'll come to you next, Charles. Mike, who you have at number 1 if you drop Langston out of that number 1 spot?
Albany State. Albany. They an impressive win coming out the gate against Mississippi College. They were behind in the over and under, weren't supposed to win that game. Langston Lions, you knew they were going to win it. It is Oklahoma.
But they would be my number 1. And I tell you what, Fort Valley, waking up the echoes of goodbye at Tuskegee.
Yep.
Wow. You know, that's big. That's
big.
Yeah.
That's big.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say that is big. Karen Griffin likes the fact that Clark Atlanta's made the top 10. She wants to rep that as well. Let me ask you this question. We all agree that Albany State significantly should be up there. We should have made a move. Do you jump them all the way from 6-1 over a team that was ahead of them the previous week? Start with you, Mike. I think your answer, you said it, but I just want to add.
Absolutely. Here's why.
Say your comments. For some reason, the video is frozen, but it's still sending a signal.
Is it back up?
You're back up.
Yeah. Mike, you were going to say as we got in there?
Yeah. So here's why. Yes, jumped up. But remember when we started out, I was the one who said you could argue that they were number 4. You know, you could move them up from 6 to 4. So in my mind, it's moving them from number 4 to 1. The other thing is we always talked about Bowie State reloading. Bowie State, unfortunately, came out the gates. They fell short. They come out of the top 5, in my opinion. So that leaves room to move Albany State all the way. If it's from number 6, I think they should have started the season at number 4 or number 5. You look at their past years of performance, I think it's justified to move them up to number 1.
Hey, Doc, let's have Charles remake his point.
Go ahead, Charles.
Great point, Mike.
Would you jump them, as I said in this, would you jump them all the way up from 6 to 1?
Yeah. Why not? On game 1, why not? You see all that fluctuation on game 1. Why not? Let's go for it.
The first couple of weeks, I will say this in terms is your biggest movements that you have a lot of teams. As Mike says, there's not a lot of data points. So you can have huge fluctuations in the poll rankings, to your point. But that's also where I like the fact that we acknowledge that wins matter, because sometimes you don't get that when you have these. And it's really interesting when we come back from this break, your thoughts in terms of what that means at the major division, because oftentimes you have more fluctuation with teams playing up, teams playing down, classic games. So I would like to see your thoughts on that. Before we go to the break, I did want to get Mike add another point he wanted to get in.
The one thing I do like about your poll is if there is such a thing as an impressive loss, Miles had one, and that's reflected in your poll. So I will tip my hat to that. It is an impressive loss. If there is such a thing, an impressive loss. There were some losses that were not impressive, data points. And we'll talk about those probably throughout the show. So, Southern, hey.
You wasn't impressed with the Southern, Sean. Give us time. We'll get into that.
Yeah.
That being said, we got Jimmy Wilson said, hell no, he don't do it in terms of jumping them up. G. Boom Holly says, we will see how it goes by week number 4. With that, this is Dr. Cavil inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Let's take a break and we'll come back with the major division poll rankings. I really think we're going to rankle some people with that one. This is Dr. Cavil inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Stick with us. I know we may have a couple of technical difficulties, but we'll work through it. Stick with us, and we'll make sure you get all your good information. I see Juan Hill is in the house. Karen Griffin says, ranking flexibility the first 2 weeks. I can live with it. Thank you. Stephen A. Miller's in here. Kurt Wilson. Chad Cooper is in the house. So let's get with it as we continue to get it done. We'll be right back after this quick break.
I say grammar.
Your ad could be ran here. MyJBN.com/support. MyJBN.com/support for more information.
Shop Melvin Online Women's Boutique to spice up your closet with trendy, unique looks. We have fashionable and chic looks at very affordable prices. Melvin Boutique offers free shipping all year long on all orders. Shop online at www.melvetboutique.com. That's www.melvetboutique.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram. Shop Melvin Online Women's Boutique.
This is Carlos Brown, letting you know that we're on the move. You can now catch the Carlos Brown Show beginning this July on the Black College Sports Network each and every Saturday from 11 to 1 Eastern Time. That's 10 to 12 Central Time. Same time, new place. On Facebook at the Carlos Brown Show and Black College Sports Network. Online at www.mybcsn.net and on the BCSN app available on Google Play and the Apple App Store.
Whether it's advice on managing your anxiety or tools to help you stay grounded, Coping-19 provides a range of resources and self-care tips to help you cope with this pandemic. We can help. Find the resources that work best for you at coping-19.org.
It's like a loop machine. All around town, people trying to get down.
This is Dr. Cavil inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. I know you had a little pause before we going into the credit. Did you have something as we start this second half of the show, Charles?
I'm checking milk cartons. I'm looking for Roy Evans. I need help. Roy, where you at? What? Strike! What? At least Jerome G. Sutton, he hollered at me. He was like, good game, but I ain't heard nothing from Roy. Help, Roy! Help! I'm looking.
Hey, don't snakes go into hibernation?
No. I mean, snakes supposed to be out right now. We're still in summer.
Hey, Mike, what did you say Roy Jones was told by?
Hey, Antonio Tarver to Roy Jones. What's your excuse now, Roy?
Oh, man, y'all cold. Man, stop that. Let's get into this major division poll ranking, man. Y'all having too much fun today. Let's start it with those teams that dropped out. We had a couple of teams that dropped out of the top 10. Again, we'll focus on the top 5, but I want to let you know who dropped out. Southern Jaguars didn't look very good against Troy. Yes, it was the FBS, but just the way they played, many people thought Southern Jaguars would represent long season. They got a chance to get it right. A couple of things went down. North Carolina A&T, the Aggies. The game, they were in the hunt. They were in the game, but they didn't represent like we're used to in terms of the Aggies. And so I think it hurt them in terms of their ranking. This was a game that many people thought they would come in and they should be able to get the win and get it done. Just didn't play very well. Defensive, they made some stops late in the game to give them some chances in the offense. And the offense couldn't really move the ball, but they made some big plays and timely plays to make it close, but couldn't quite get it done. With that being said, who jumps in the poll? Grambling State Tigers get in the poll with a win over Tennessee State. Grambling is back again, or some people made an appearance. We'll see how long they can stay in the top 10. They have a tough matchup this weekend. We'll see what's going on there. You also have Delaware State that jumps in the poll. We saw what they did against Bowie State. We'll see how long that lasts. They get a chance to make another major statement when we get into some games of the week. Talk about that in the last quarter, where we start getting into some of these matchups, MEAC, SWAC, some nice, crucial non-conference games against FCS competition. Be interesting to see what that looks like. Let's get into it. Top 5 programs with some teams moving out of the top 5. You had 3 teams that were previously in the top 5 that dropped out of it. So who gets in there? Number 5, Prairie View A&M 1-0, and they are 1-0 in conference play with a big win over the rival. Texas Southern, they have one first place vote, look really good both sides of the ball in that matchup. People will say, hey, it's just Texas Southern. Texas Southern looked like they were making a trend. Some people said Texas Southern is going to find the time to get it right. We'll see which one it really is the case. At number 4, North Carolina Central did not play this weekend, but because of the other losses, they actually moved up to number 4, move up 4 spots. Just like Prairie View moved up 5 spots, one first place vote, 76 points. At number 3, Jackson State moved up big time as well. Jackson State Tigers 1-0, as well as 1-0 in the conference as they defeated the Rattlers. Defensive game, they moved up 4 spots, 96 points, getting it done. At number 2, Arkansas Pine Bluff Golden Lions 1-0. They got it done over Lane. Didn't have too much trouble, maybe closer than some people thought. They remain at number 2. You have Alabama A&M, probably the biggest matchup this weekend in terms of top programs. Got a little revenge for the SWAC. 2 teams that were predicted to win both of their conferences, respectively. Alabama over South Carolina State. Nip and tuck, went to the last play of the game. Interception, won it for Alabama A&M. They are 1-0, 7 first place votes, so they increase their first place votes as they get it done. I will say this, South Carolina State stays in the top 10, but they drop out of the top 5. They fall 3 spots, just to give you some indication there in terms of what they did in terms of that ranking. FAMU also falls 3 spots. As they fall out of the top 5, they fall to 6, 0-1 in both overall and conference records. So again, you can go to BCSN. We'll have the poll rankings up there so you can break it down, as well as CHG Agency. With that said, there are some teams receiving votes. Bethune-Cookman played well against UTEP. Alabama State with their win over Miles. We'll see maybe this week if that win deserves a little more credit than some people think. That's a solid team, even though people are already mad that Alabama State made it that close. North Carolina A&T obviously still receiving votes and things of that nature. I'm going to stick with Charles first this time. Charles, what do you think in terms of the top 5 teams in the poll ranking overall?
Well, let me start a little something with Grambling and Florida A&M. If I'm a Grambling fan, I want that Florida A&M spot. Give me that 6. Give me my 1-0 over there 0-1. But I tell you what, that was a good weekend of great action. We talked about Florida A&M and Jackson State with a great defensive contest, but it was an offensive explosion with Alabama A&M and South Carolina State that caught my eyes. 42-41, a huge win for Alabama A&M, getting that win over South Carolina State team that's they're predicted to see again in the Celebration Bowl. Arkansas Pine Bluff, they did what they needed to do. Prairie View, that's a good win. Labor Day Classic, rivalry games. Anytime you take out your rival, opening weekend, heck of a win, 40-17, and it was dominant in its performance. But I can't knock this poll here. This looks good. The first 5 all 1-0, and then your next 5, you got Grambling that really bounced back really well from the spring, on 4 in the spring. That was a solid win over Tennessee State to get that win on a neutral site and really kind of restore the roar, if you will, for Grambling. So kudos to Grambling for getting that big win. Tennessee State now, they've lost to 3 SWAC teams over the past 2 years: Jackson State, Pine Bluff, and now Grambling.
That's a great point when you talk about Tennessee State that believes over the years playing in OVC has allowed them to be better than the SWAC schools, not in terms of the last 3 games. We'll see what that means. They made a transition in coaching, but it's still early. We'll see what that means. You did point out Grambling over FAMU. What's interesting about that? That's a conference game now, and Grambling travels to FAMU for homecoming, so they'll get a chance sooner or later to make the statement on the field. So that's interesting. I'm glad you brought that up. Nice little tie in, and you handed it right to me, Charles. Good one. Mike, what are your thoughts in terms of top 5?
No, I have very little qualms with this one as well. I'm much more in alignment agreement with this one as opposed to your mid majors. The one tweak I would make is Pine Bluff. If you're looking at strength of the team that you defeat, Pine Bluff defeated Lane, tough opponent, but Jackson State beat FAMU. Or Kellogg Central, who do they beat? Alcorn State. Prairie View beat Texas Southern. So I think you could make an argument for Arkansas Pine Bluff moving down a little bit, maybe still in the top 5 and moving Jackson State up at top 5. That was a top victory. Low scoring defensive battle by both teams. I think it was a tough game. 2 juggernauts who are not out of it by any chance. And I think UAPB took care of business like they're supposed to against Lane. I would agree with Charles. If I'm Grambling State, I'm saying I'm 1-0. And you got me down here at numero ocho, and you got other teams up there at 0-1. So, data point, Alabama A&M is still as advertised. That plethora of receivers they have, that offensive output that they had, that game had over 1,000 yards of total offense. South Carolina State, to their credit, they had 400 yards of that 1,000. So that was no slouch. That was just Alabama A&M, that juggernaut, Akil Glass doing what he was supposed to, performing well. But the only tweak I would consider is Pine Bluff. They beat Lane. Lane is kind of finished kind of in the cellar a little bit. They're a tough team. They're unpredictable. They came to play, but you could argue that strength of, victory over a top opponent, FAMU, many have them coming out of the SWAC or at least coming out of the East. Many had Alcorn coming out of the West or coming out of the SWAC. To me, those win over those opponents warrant a higher ranking in this week's poll. I do think that Southern will be back in the poll, and probably so will the Aggies.
Man, that is fascinating, Charles. People are falling in love with Jackson. They wouldn't listen to you earlier. All of a sudden now they were like, oh, he for real. Interesting. But
data point, Jackson State has a hell of a defense now. data
no
point.
doubt about it. Most people will have to agree with that. With that being said, Jimmy Wilson says Charles Bishop, every team in the SWAC has 3- and 4-star transfers on the team. Okay. Mary Allen, do they have as many as what Charles would say? Mary Allen says great top 5 ranking. Thank you, Mary. And somebody knows what they're talking about out there. Ricky Bird says, yes, sir, Charles. Laugh out loud. We need to go up. Jerome P. Sutton says, PBAM could be a problem. Mike tried to tell y'all that. Jimmy Wilson said, good job on week 2 rankings. Thank you. I told y'all, just stick with your boy. The computers know what they're doing. Dwight Morris said, Professor Bishop, you should educate these recent SWAC followers why JSU and Tennessee State is such a heated rivalry. We'll get into that. We have that as our classic game of the week. We'll save that till Thursday, but we will get inside at Jackson State, Tennessee State. We'll let Charles get a chance to show up and show out as he normally does. But thanks for pointing that out, Dwight Moore. We will need to take a deeper dive. We got Breezy in here checking us out. Ross Lewis, appreciate you. Joseph Anthony says, Bulldogs in the lab. Respect all, fear none. Hashtag Alabama A&M or AAMU. Anthony Goodwin. Juan Hill still mixing it up with us here. Dwight Moore has another comment, says the race is not given to the swift nor the strong, but the one that endured to the end. Go Jags. Great point. But you certainly need to say that after week 1.
Hey, Dwight, you set yourself up for that one.
Yeah, I'd say that too. I'd be quoting that scripture too.
Brian Simpson says non-conference wins make a difference in the rankings. No doubt. Certainly in Dr. Cavil's rankings, they do. Trudy Jackson says Dwight Moore, he likes the blue and gold glasses that he had, that Dwight Moore has on. No doubt about it. Shout out to Trudy. Appreciate you. With that being said, we'll go ahead and take our last break. We'll get into some early mixes of some of these non-conference games from the SWAC MEAC. I want to take a deep dive in that, or at least touch on it a little bit. This is Dr. Cavil inside the HBCU Sports Lab for our last quarter. Thanks for sticking with us, and appreciate all the good kudos for my poll ranking in week number 1. We'll see what it looks like in week 2. Things will change. See if they all stay on the good foot. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this message. We're still looking for Roy. Charles said he's looking for Roy.
This is the BCSN Pod Zone, your place for the news, views, and conversations about all things related to HBCU athletics. Here are the BCSN Sports Wrap, Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, Knights of the Round Table, the pregame show, the Carlos Brown Show, the ONG Strike Zone, and more in one place. We are changing the way you consume HBCU sports, one broadcast at a time.
The Cavil Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cavil.
Let's get back to getting ticks instead of watching flicks. Before we can safely get out there, we need the facts on COVID-19 vaccines. Visit getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision for yourself and for your crew.
This is Brian Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
This is Dr. Cavil inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Watson, Charles Bishop. Well, if y'all could be behind the scene, it would be fascinating. Lonnie Shaw sneaks up there and we talk about you. We saw Simmons' names, Murado Dick, as the starter. If he would have started against JSU, I think it would have been a different outcome. You at least have Kevin Crowell said Lonnie Shaw, or at least brought him in earlier. I can believe in bringing him maybe early. I can think you can question that, but I'm not sure. That defense for Jackson State, I don't know if that young freshman wanted too much of that.
Let me say this.
To this mix.
Let me say this, Doc, to Lonnie. If was a fifth, we'd all be drunk. So.
Hey, Charles, I just got a tweet. It's an emergency alert. It's a AP all points bulletin, APBFR, all points bulletin for a Rattler.
So, SWAC major division game of the week. Let's get into it. Northwestern State Demons are 0-1. They faced the number 9 ranked Alcorn State Braves, and that's in Dr. Bill's ranking, who are 0-1 after the loss in MEAC SWAC Challenge. This is a big one. Southland versus SWAC. The game is at home for Alcorn. One of the few games they have because they lost a couple of games, but not playing in the spring. You know they're going to have a lot of fans at home. This is a fascinating one. This is interesting. Mike, what are your thoughts on this matchup in terms of the SWAC major division game of the week as we plug it here on the show?
I think I'm scratching my head on this one, and I'm wondering. Northwestern State. You know, you look in the past few years at how competitive they are in the Southland, and they're kind of in the middle of the pack. And Alcorn State, they're going. You just have the feeling after the SWAC MEAC challenge that they were going to knock out some of the Kinks. So I think this will be a close, intriguing matchup. It's a head scratcher. I don't know how good Northwestern State has improved. I think they were 2-5 or 1-5, somewhere in the middle of the pack in the conference last couple of years. So at times their offense have shown great flashes, but if Alcorn State plays and eliminates some of the mistakes, they can be very competitive in this game from my perspective.
Charles, what are your thoughts?
Here's the thing that concerns me about this Alcorn Northwestern State matchup. Northwestern State rushed for over 200 yards against the FBS opponent. So I think Alcorn is going to have to be ready for bear in terms of trying to stop this Northwestern State run. It's important, and you touched on it, Dr. Cavil. Not too many home games. You want to make sure that you have a great showing at home with regards to Alcorn. I think they get off the deck and they come out fighting against this Northwestern State team, because we know Felix Harper, LaCharles Pringle, Nico Duffy, those guys can be extremely explosive. But just for the SWAC psyche, you want these out-of-conference wins, and you especially want these out-of-conference wins against the Southland because you're competing, you're recruiting against this conference that's within your geographic footprint. So huge weekend for Alcorn.
Good points made there when you talk about that. Have a independent game where we probably get to talk a little bit more about another chance in terms of Prairie View going on the road to Incarnate Word.
Yeah.
We'll look at that on Thursday, but I want to do with the MEAC game of the week. And I did say that Alcorn was ranked 9. I should say they're ranked 10, but you have Delaware State that is ranked 9, and they host Georgetown. This is another chance where you have the MEAC, similar to what you've seen in SWAC, where they're hosting a regional FCS peer, this time in terms of Georgetown, who comes in the game 0-1. Delaware State, obviously, with the win over Bowie State. Sticking with you, Charles, what are your thoughts on this Georgetown coming to Dover to face the Delaware State Hornets?
Delaware State has been making improvements. I thought they showed well in the spring. They get this really good win against a tough Bowie State. I'm gonna go out on a limb. I'm gonna take Delaware State and get and go with them to get this win over Georgetown.
Nice, Mike. What do you thought of this MEAC matchup against Pioneer representative Georgetown?
Yeah, I actually gotta agree with that. I'm looking at this Georgetown. I'm looking at how Delaware State played, the offensive output they had. They played really well, and I think if they continue that output, if you look at that game, Bowie State is no slack. Delaware State, they had 300-400 yards of offense total, 345, I think, to be exact. And so I think if they come out and play the same way with the same intensity that they played against Bowie State, there was kind of it seemed like there may have been a letdown maybe in the last quarter where they scored no points and they allowed Bowie State to score a touchdown. But I think if they come out against Georgetown like they did against Bowie State, I think they have a great shot of winning.
Let's keep with the same refrain of you have HBCUs playing historically white colleges. We're going to do it in the CIAA, dipping down to the mid-major division at the Division II level. And as you know, for the playoffs, this could be extremely important because of the regional rankings. You have a South Atlantic team, Wingate. In this case, instead of hosting like we've seen at the FCS major division level, the CIAA, in terms of Fayetteville State, ranked number 3 in the mid-major poll after their conference win last week. They go on the road to face Wingate. So I want to know your thoughts in terms of this matchup. Is this a matchup that is one that CIAA can find a way to get done with Fayetteville State? Certainly a chance for them to make a statement. What are your thoughts, Mike? Sticking with you.
Yeah, I think Fayetteville State has a good chance. I think if you look at them on the offensive side of the ball, I think they'll still come out of their part of the CIAA. They falter in the championships, but I think they have a good chance. Now, Wingate's a very tough team. I don't think it's going to be a crapshoot. I still look for a very competitive game, but I still look for Wingate to pull it out, but I look for a great showing versus CIAA pulling it out.
Yes, Charles, your thoughts on Fayetteville State and Wingate as they go on the road? Another chance for the mid-major team, CIAA, to represent.
Yeah, opportunity for the CIAA to represent. Wingate came out strong. They beat up on Shaw. 40-7, I believe, was the score. But you got an opportunity with a much better CIAA team here with Fayetteville State carrying the banner for the CIAA. It's going to be tough trying to get this win on the road against Wingate. But let's stick with our HBCUs. Let's go with Fayetteville State, and let's see if they can get that running game up and going against Wingate and wear them down into submission and get this win on the road.
This is one of the few weekends of the year where you do not have a MEAC matchup, a SWAC matchup, or a CIAA conference matchups when I say that, but you do in the SIAC. You have Clark Atlanta coming off a big victory. Lane played well, but they played up going to Arkansas Pine Bluff. So we have a SIAC game where Clark Atlanta is hosting in Atlanta the Lane Dragons. We told you Clark Atlanta's ranked number 10. So, Charles, what are your thoughts in terms of Clark Atlanta? Can they get this win over Lane and make it for this early stretch of the season?
This is going to be a tough one for Clark. When you take a look at Lane, I start with the quarterback, Tariq McKenzie. I mean, you talk about he's one of the more.
He played well against
UAPB. Right. And Anthony Evelyn is a heck of a target for Tariq McKenzie. You're talking about somebody who back in 2019, he averaged almost 6 catches per game, and he had 7 touchdowns back then. But they also have really good, solid talent on the defensive side of the ball, and they're led by all SIAC selections with their linebacker play, Bray McKenzie and Jeffrey Johnson. So tough one for Clark. Got to go with Lane in this one.
Mike, do you think the same way in terms of Clark Atlanta and Lane? Clark Atlanta is my team. This is the team that I need to see get some things done because I'm going for a greater expansion. I want to get in the Atlanta market. Can Clark Atlanta find a way to make other folks a believer?
I don't know about that. Wow. I'm sorry. I think, if Clark Atlanta, plays a tough game, I just see Lane pulling this one out.
Good point. I'll leave it on this one. Interesting article by YahooSports.com, UCLA, to pay HBCUs over $500K, but guaranteed games may be dwindling. A good article in terms of that. We've seen all of this conference churning, as Charles loves when I use the journal article, research article terms, but you have this alignment with the Big Ten, ACC, and Pac-12. What does that look like in terms of conference games? Will some of these games go away if these conferences decide to play more games that they can try to get on national network? Obviously, with SEC making a big move, bringing in Oklahoma and Texas. Fascinating article. Check it out, YahooSports.com, UCLA, to pay HBCUs over $500K. But guaranteed games may be dwindling. So I thought that was an interesting factoid that I wanted to bring to your attention. We'll see what that looks like. We'll get a chance maybe to discuss a little more on Thursday, but we'll get into some more of the games. Don't fret. We have 4 more games that we'll get into next on Thursday. We'll look at some of the classic games of the week, one for the MEAC, one for the SWAC. We'll look at also classic for CIAA, SIAC. We have those independents that we throw in there as well. So check with us on Thursday as we get back into it. And our debut, week number 1. Well, I saw our debut last week, but we have week number 1 in the Battle of the Bands, my marching sport poll. Stick with us and see what you think. Again, on our poll ranking, we do wins and losses when we have head-to-head matchups of the bands. Who wins? And we had classic games this week. So we had a lot of head-to-head matchups we can choose from. So I want to see what y'all think about my band poll ranking. Wins and losses, teams going up and down based on the head-to-head matchup. We'll see what you think in terms of what that looks like. Thank you for listening to Inside HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab. in the college HBCU sports with Mike Watson and Charles Bishop. We hope you enjoyed our interview with each other as we talked about it and really got the lab fans in tune to everything going on here. Again, thank you for listening to Dr. Bill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Watson, Charles Bishop, every Tuesday and Thursday right here at 6 o'clock. And on Sunday, as we do a wrap-up, as you really want to bite in pieces and want to understand what you saw on Saturday, we'll tell you Sunday morning at 9 Central Time. Stick with us. We look forward as we continue this week and discuss the latest in the lab. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. That's DrKenyattaCavil. It's Inside HBCU Sports Lab 1 on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. That's Inside the Sports Lab, Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Dream big. We'll continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Charles.
Of course.
Mike.
Lecture.
Dismiss.